My name's Dave Dubeau, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
Hey gang, welcome back. Today we got a special treat zooming in from Houston, Texas. Very accomplished real estate entrepreneur. Aaron Ameen has been doing real estate for a while. Got started in single-family homes, built up a portfolio of 8 properties, I believe, across 3 different states over a number of years, while at the same time holding down a job, raising a family. I think he's got 3 little kids, juggling all of that stuff and a portfolio. And he's started showing people how to do what he calls a 20-minute investor framework. But what's really exciting is Aaron started to level up and get into bigger deals. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see his cap says RAL, that's residential assisted living. So he's getting into that, a whole field, and not just buying a house and converting it, starting to do development in this arena. So really leveling up. So Aaron, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So Aaron, I kind of gave you a little bit of an intro there, but can you give us a snapshot as of right now, we're January 2026. What does the portfolio look like? What does real estate investing look like for Aaron Ameen?
Yeah, no, thank you. As of right now, January 2026, we just began construction on our new development project. We are building 2 luxury assisted living homes here in a suburb of Houston called Tomball. Nice. Each one's going to be a 10,000 square foot ranch style home, 16 bedrooms, 16 private bathrooms, meant to be kind of towards the top of the market for assisted living, which is a very in demand and only becoming more in demand subclass of real estate. It's a very interesting intersection in the sense that there's the real estate development angle, but we're also planning to own and operate the operating company that will actually employ the caretakers. We'll have full staff, and we used an SBA loan to fund it. But to answer the rest of your question, so you mentioned in the intro, we bought 8 single family homes across 3 states over 5 years. We've sold a couple of those off recently to reinvest into this assisted living deal. Not because we're giving up on single family, we just found what we felt to be a higher and better use for that money. But the foundation we built in that portfolio was tremendously helpful, not only financially, but also just the skills and the knowledge we built during that period of time. And we feel, that entire experience, including both the good and the bad, prepared us for the moment we're in right now.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, let's dig into the whole residential assisted living side of things. I've interviewed a number of folks in that arena over the last number of years, including years ago, Gene Guarino, who was kind of the grandfather of some of that stuff, and passed away, unfortunately. But very, very interesting. So you're building 2 facilities from the ground up. Are they on the same property?
Yes. So we bought 7 acres of land. We're going to build 2 homes in this first phase, and then there's a footprint big enough to build 2 more at a future date.
Oh, very nice. So is this in the I guess this is in the outskirts of town, I would imagine, right?
So Tomball is a suburb. It's kind of a small town within a large metro. So we get the best of both worlds. There's a great community environment there. It has that small town feel, but we also have about 200,000 people within a 20-minute drive radius. So it is really the best of both worlds in that sense.
All right. So you mentioned that each one's going to have 16 kind of individual rooms in it with private bathrooms in each one. Nice. Are these primarily for individuals or couples or both? How does that side of things work?
Yeah, so in Texas, you can have up to 16 individual residents in what's considered a small residential assisted living home. Anything above and beyond that has different licensing requirements. It can be prohibitive at times. We built it to house 16 individuals, so each bedroom is effectively its own little studio apartment, nice and spacious. It's got a big bedroom area with a fireplace and a TV and a nice window. and then a big ensuite bathroom with walk-in shower and all that stuff. So it is meant for that kind of individual resident.
Very nice. So assisted living residents come in all shapes, sizes, and needs. What's kind of the range you're looking at for the folks that you're going to have in your homes?
Yeah, so it's memory care is our kind of primary target. So being able to serve folks with Alzheimer's and dementia. And it really is that end of life care, essentially. The only reason, we kind of say that this would be most likely someone's last stop, barring something medical in nature that we would be unable to serve. So ultimately, we want to be able to serve. It actually is born from a personal mission. My wife, her father had early onset dementia and was in a big box nursing home. It was a really depressing experience for her. And she saw that kind of poor quality care. Unfortunately, the bar is very low for the way that we take care of our seniors in our society. And so this project was a way for us to give back, and running that operations company, building out the premium care model that we wanted was our kind of way to give back and hopefully provide a better experience for people.
Okay. So based on what you've seen other people in the space doing, what does that kind of look like day to day, Aaron? So we understand that your residents are going to be challenged with dementia or memory challenges. What level of assistance are you? I mean, my wife works in mental health, and there's a lot of dementia patients that she works with, and I mean, it can get pretty hairy at times dealing with these folks. So, what does that look like as far as staffing, that sort of thing, and what's your anticipated average length of stay, do you think, going to be with these?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's a very challenging situation in the sense that you want to be able to support people as well as you can, but there are obviously challenging behaviors when somebody is not in full control of their faculties and has essentially faulty memory. So the caretakers will all be trained specifically on how to interface with people. We have a specific approach. It's called positive approach to care that we're getting trained up on. There's a very empathetic style where you really can learn to read different signals and states of mind on people, even and especially geared towards people with dementia and Alzheimer's. Typically, there's what's called ADLs, activities of daily living. And assisted living is built on the idea that people need support with daily functions. Otherwise, they would be in what's called independent living. So for memory care, typically there are quite a few ADLs that are required, everything from basic hygiene to food and medicine, and of course, any potential other accommodations that might be needed for any type of disability. But the caretakers themselves are not actually medical professionals. So we're not providing doctors and nurses. That stuff's all contracted out with either home health care or local doctors. And so our job would be primarily to make sure that they're living the best quality of life that they possibly can, and that we're supporting them through those activities of daily living. So even if they can't do something themselves, it can be as close to that independent feeling as possible.
Yeah, I think that is fantastic. So for one of these facilities, you got 16 people in there, residents. How many staff do you think you're going to need for that? And is it group meals? How does that side of things work?
So the benefit of us doing 2 separate 16-bedroom homes is that we'll have enough revenue to hire a full staff and really invest in the right people. So we'll have a layered management system. We'll have salaried managers that are responsible for all the day-to-day oversight. We'll have at a minimum 2 caretakers round the clock. So that's a minimum 8-to-1 ratio. But during any peak hours, meals, et cetera, we'll have more people on site. We will be able to afford and employ a private chef who will shop for all the nice fresh ingredients that we can and create home cooked meals. So in the nursing homes, you see the cafeteria trays with the plastic lid. Like, we'll use real plates, real silverware, fresh ingredients, and thankfully, because of the revenue, we'll be able to support those investments. And then my wife will act as the director and the administrator, kind of overseeing the entire operation. And I will be, I suppose, the back office person acting in more of the CFO, COO capacity.
Hey there, if you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, or a fund manager, and you're looking for a steady flow of incoming accredited investor leads, then go ahead, grab a free copy of my new book, How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month Without Cold Calling, Networking, or Chasing People. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Again, that's the number 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com.
Okay, very, very cool. So with all of that, there's a ton of expense that goes into facilities like this. You're getting a little bit of, leverage there by having two of them eventually four of them. That'll be awesome. That's very smart. What do you anticipate charging your residents? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we did extensive research on the area. It's called secret shopping, not so secret now. I guess I'm telling it on air. But, we go around and essentially pull all the pricing at every facility within any reasonable distance. We were researching all over Houston before we found this plot of land. So we had a ton of data to pull from. And what you'll find is that a lot of times people will list their price that, it's $4,000 for assisted living, but then they charge $200, $300 per month if you add different ADLs. So what we wanted to do is come in with an all-inclusive pricing that's specifically already factoring in everything that someone would need in memory care. And long story short, the rate that we came up with to start is around $7,900 per month per individual. That includes all the food, that includes all the care. The only costs on top of that for a resident would be incontinence products and any other hygiene things that they might want to take.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. So based on your experience secret shopping and investigating all of this, which obviously you've done a lot of, who are the clientele, or how are they typically paying for this? Because $8,000 a month, that's a big chunk of change for people. Are these wealthy individuals that have a ton of cash? Are they typically covered by some sort of insurance or pension? How does this usually get paid for?
So ours is focused primarily on a private pay model, and that was intentional. Even though there are Medicare and other government benefits, a lot of banks actually, ironically, view those as a risk because there's dependency on a program that could be gone tomorrow, essentially, and the administration of all those benefits can be a major pain. So we priced and our marketing based on a private pay model. To your point, it's not the same as renting a room for $1,000 a month. The $7,900 is a lot of money, but as I mentioned above, it's kind of the last stop for most people. So oftentimes it's a combination of, they saved for this. This is what they spend their kind of final chunk on. People can sell their houses, and once they're no longer independent and move into a place like this, or more often than not, it's some combination of that plus some support from a younger family member. Younger meaning, the maybe 50 to 60-year-old son or daughter that, is financially stable on their own right and able to help contribute. People, oftentimes they're faced with the choice, do I keep mom and dad at home, even though I'm not probably the best person to take care of them and I don't understand how to interface with people dealing with dementia? Or do I, pony up and find a place that's purpose-built for this and that I can trust and feel safe with mom or dad?
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. So, Aaron, a lot involved with this. A number of people that I have interviewed over the years that are doing something similar tend to focus a lot more on the real estate side of things. So they either purchase a property and renovate it and turn it into one of these residential assisted living facilities, or they build it from the ground up, and then they run right out and find an operator to lease it to so that they can be a 100% passive. You're doing all of it. So I understand from, your own personal experience and your wife and her father, that unfortunate situation. Is this what you guys are thinking of switching your careers to? It sounds like your wife's going to be full-time in this. Are you going to be getting into this full-time as yourself as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for the time being, I'm still at my W-2 job, which I have a great career in management consulting that has actually taught me a lot of skills that have served me very well in my real estate investing journey. So while there's that compatibility and I don't not enjoy what I do, there's not really a burning pain or desire to make a change. And especially having some stability while we have all this volatility in the rest of our lives, that's an asset for us right now. Yeah. But to actually answer your question, of course, in the longer term, we are definitely hoping to make this our one thing and something that we can singularly put our focus towards. We had to raise a lot of money for this. We have investors that are expecting us to deliver, and so the more we can align our focus behind this project and this mission, the better off not only will our family be, but of course everyone else who's trusted us along the way. Most importantly, the residents that we're going to serve.
So that kind of brings me to one of my last questions here. And a ton of capital required to do something like this. You're starting from scratch as far as residential assisted living without a track record, without experience in this. How did you raise the capital for this first project? What did that kind of look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up using a syndication and combined with a SBA 504 loan. If you don't know what either of those things are, small business administration loans are typically thought of to fund the startup of a new business. Well, this is actually a startup of a new business. And the SBA 504 loan can finance ground up construction. Mm-hmm. So we applied for, it's about a little over $7 million loan package. And then we raised $2.8 million through syndication. So we ran 2 rounds of funding. One was a little more friends and family, and the other was what's called 506C, which allowed us to advertise and post publicly about the opportunity. There's plenty of other, we could probably do an entire episode on that process, but it was quite a journey, but we were able to secure just under $10 million in funding for the entire startup costs. And the good news about that is, that sounds like a scary number, but the appraisal on the project came back at $13.4 million, which is why we love ground up development for this, because we were able to essentially engineer that equity and start with a lead if all we do is accomplish exactly what we said we would.
Yeah. No, very, very, very cool. All right. Well, at what stage are you at right now again with this development?
As of this recording, we just broke ground a couple weeks ago. So we took raw land that was previously, wooded and completely undeveloped, and we started the clearing. And we have about a 10-month runway ahead of us until we're fully complete with construction. So 2026 will be all about just executing. We spent all of 2025 planning. And so we're excited to finally have shovels in the ground and start seeing some actual tangible progress.
How long do you think it's going to take to get to, profitable occupancy are you building both of these at the same time or one after the other? Yeah. Okay. What are your projections there?
Yeah, so we budgeted about 10 to 12 months for construction, 12 conservatively, and then another 10 to 12 months for lease up.
Okay.
There's a couple factors that are outside of our control, like the licensing period. Sometimes you're at the mercy of the state and things can get stuck. So we kind of built in a few buffers. Hopefully we can overperform on that. But we're expecting a longer runway just so that we're not rudely surprised if and when that.
Neither you nor your investors, right? So that's smart. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So assuming that everything goes according to plan, which we certainly hope it does, when do you think you'll start building the other 2 properties, the other 2 units, facilities on this property?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because some of it will depend on what kind of financing options are available to us at the time that we fully stabilized. But we projected and communicated to our investors that we'll do a refi within 5 years from the day that they invested, which is last summer. Yeah. And at that time, we will return their initial capital plus the projected return, and then any additional money that's available would roll towards expansion. People also will have an opportunity to be bought out at that time if they no longer want to continue. And so we have a couple different pathways we can take depending on the financing, but it would be right around the time of that refi in 5 years that we would do phase 2.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And that gives you some runway to get all your experience under your belt running these first 2 facilities. Yeah. But
we're really excited about the prospect of what this business could be, but we're also not in a rush because we recognize the complexity. It's a 24/7, 365 business. There's no days off. We're going to employ about 20 people on our payroll, and we do not underestimate in any way what kind of challenges that'll bring. And so I'd much rather get our footing and really build a tight operation that we can be proud of and that people can be comfortable trusting us with before we start, focusing on growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your approach there, Aaron. Cool. Well, hey, thanks for sharing what you're up to. Congratulations. That is a massive leap in a brand new direction for you. Sounds like you're doing it the right way. You've done a lot of homework, a lot of research, a lot of shopping around, a lot of getting educated. You found a good piece of property. You spent a year planning things out. You got the financing set up. You raised up a ton of money, especially for your first kick at the can. Well, that's amazing. And, you don't have unrealistic expectations about how long this is going to take or what's going to be involved. So I think you're going to do very, very well with it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me tell the story. It's an exciting asset class. When we first learned about it, we didn't know that there was assisted living that could be in a home-like environment. And that realization in and of itself sparked this entire journey. So, happy to share more about residential assisted living if anybody's interested.
Yeah. So how can people connect with you? What's the best way for them to do that, Aaron?
Sure. So my website is very simple. It's just my first and last name, aaronameen.com. It's got all the information about not only the earlier part of our journey with our rentals, but also how you can connect and learn more about assisted living. And I'd be happy to chat with anybody, any of your listeners. If they want to connect, you can also reach me at aaron@aaronameen.com.
Awesome, Aaron. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. See you on the next one.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.